Back here on BPTV, Cory McCartney and Grant McAuley with you, and we welcome in Mark DeRosa from MLB Network's MLB Central. He's also the manager of Team USA for the World Baseball Classic. Mark, good to have you in. Thanks for the time.
No, thanks for having me. Super fired up.
Mark, the Braves season did not end in another parade, but young stars emerged, and Michael Harris II and Spencer Strider, Kyle Wright surprisingly leads the majors and wins. What did you take from Atlanta's 2022 and what it sets the stage for 23?
It's funny, living here since now 2003, what I take away from it is I have a 13-year-old son that is getting a chance to see. I thought I was going to be a part of one of the greatest dominant runs of all time and still will hold true. But this group, this core that Alex Anthopoulos has put together, I mean, with the Battery and Truist Park and everything that comes with it, there's not a better time for the next decade to be an Atlanta Braves fan. I mean, pick your choice of what superstar you want to follow as a kid. That's my biggest takeaway. I had a chance to play for Alex Anthopoulos in 2013 in Toronto my last year, and built a great relationship with him. So I knew he'd be successful, and I knew all the stuff he had learned. Being in Toronto, going to the Dodgers, kind of learning what they do all over there. Once he came here and kind of figured out the core and fell in love with being a part of the Atlanta community, I'm not shocked he's been able to kind of not only put an unbelievable roster together, but then to lock it up for the next decade for most of these guys.
Yeah, it's extremely impressive. And one of the guys who got locked up, of course, was Austin Riley, who's going to be in Atlanta for the next decade. And I know you played some hot corner for the Braves, and now it's going to be Austin's job for the next 10 or so years. And I know you had a chance to visit with him on MLB Central a couple of times and talk hitting with him, which I feel like, a lot of people may not realize exactly how advanced the approach of Austin Riley is. He's a big guy, so you think he's just going up there to hit home runs. But how impressed have you been with your conversations with him? And what's the ceiling for this kid going forward? He's only 26 years old.
Well, first off, I got a soft spot in my heart for Austin Riley because he was our first in-studio player after the pandemic finally laid down.
Okay.
So he has always been a guy that's always been willing, because it's not easy playing a night game, City Field. You're up till midnight, 1 o'clock, and then to wake up in the morning and want to come through and put on a collared shirt and talk hitting. It's not everybody's cup of tea. I get that. So I'm very appreciative of that. I think the thing for me is, first off, sky's the limit with Austin, right? And the thing I love about it is not only did he came up and it was like meteoric. Everyone was expecting like homer every other at bat. And then it was like, ooh, I'm going into an abyss for a while. And maybe this league's figured me out. And he has come storming back out. So he knows the peak and valley. So I think that's huge. I think guys have to be able to understand how to fail, especially in this game, to have like true success their entire career.
Yeah.
So he's kind of handled that. I think the biggest thing, though, what I try and do with the show with a guy like Austin Riley is show kids at home there's not one way to go about hitting. Like when I got to the big leagues, I honestly just willed it athletically to get there, right? So you listen, you digest everything, but until I spent really like 3 to 4 years with Chipper Jones and followed him around and did what he did and kind of saw how he prepared. And then you move on I had to move on to other places. Michael Young, Albert Pujols in his prime, Matt Holliday. Oh, the list goes on, right? And they all kind of come back to 3 or 4 key things that work for them. And then that's how they attack their game plan. So that's what I love to provide to the kids at home. It's not one way to go about this. Austin, he always says, I hunt windows. That's always been his big line every time he comes in. So like for a kid at home, maybe a coach is telling him, hey, take the ball up the middle the other way. Well, maybe that doesn't register for that kid at home. But if you say, hey, hunt this outer half window, and then all of a sudden that unlocks them, because we've had Donaldson come in and kind of like everything I was taught, he went totally against.
Yeah.
Do I believe? Hey, I'm not knocking it. He's won an MVP with it. What I'm saying is there's different ways to go about it, and I want kids to understand that, because this is It's a grinder game, especially having a younger son and kind of going through the whole travel ball circuit now. The expectations like we had of kids occasionally running into a homer, getting a pint of Haagen-Dazs ice cream and going to your buddy's house for a pool party. It's just not like at 12 years old, they're expected to be like really advanced and understand everything. And I feel it's unfair. So I kind of try and like gear it to giving coaches at home like maybe a nugget to bring to their youth team.
Mm-hmm. As somebody who does coach travel ball, I can't tell you how much I do appreciate you doing those breakdowns and how much I do use those for my players. They are absolutely a resource. Dansby Swanson obviously stands as the Braves' biggest offseason priority. What are your thoughts on the likelihood of Swanson returning? And if it doesn't happen, where do you believe the Braves are going to turn for their spending?
Well, I think Dansby's in a perfect spot, right? No one's in a better spot than Aaron Judge. I mean, 62 bombs, you could pretty much tell the Yankees kind of hold their feet to the fire until the bitter end. I feel like Dansby, if I was representing him, I would feel he's in a pretty primo position with regards to the Braves, because you could tell me Vaughn Grissom, you can tell me Orlando Arcia, and they will get the job done. But you're not rolling into spring training thinking that one of those two is your starting shortstop. I've been in that organization. I know how they think. I know things have changed a little bit, but you're not rolling in there truly believing Vaughn Grissom. He could totally get it done, but I don't think you're going in with this type of World Series aspirations, not knowing if he can, whether or not he can get it done. So I think Dansby is in a prime position to get the Braves to pay him a little bit more than probably he was originally thinking. And if the Braves feel like that's not the route they want to go, I mean, maybe somebody like Bogarts on a short-term deal, somebody like that. I don't see them backing it up for Trey Turner. I don't see them, maybe Correa would do that same opt-out with the Twins and opt-out again if you got creative. But Dansby he makes a lot of sense for me. He has gotten progressive. One thing I'll say about baseball players is you want to get a little bit better each year at something. I feel like he's done that every time I've watched him play 162, and that's the other thing. That guy goes to the well every night for you. He's in the lineup. You know exactly what you get when he's walking in the door. He wants to be great. There's a desire to be the leader of that team. He kind of checks all the boxes for me, so I'd like to see him back.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fit for the Braves and for the player that I feel like is a really good one. I talked to Dale Murphy a few weeks ago, and he said he wanted to give Dansby the ultimate compliment, and that's that he's a gamer. And that has so many different aspects that make him so valuable to this club. Now, when you're putting together a club, of course, you'd like to have your pick of all of Major League Baseball, and you were in the unique position as a manager of Team USA and the World Baseball Classic to have pretty much a primo pick of a lot of different players from a lot of different clubs to put that team together. So, as you put it together, and congratulations, by the way, on this managerial opportunity. You've played for this team back in 2009, so knowing this event like you do, what do you feel like is the biggest challenge as you handle a star-studded roster on a big stage, an international stage like this one?
Yeah, I think biggest challenge will be getting them to come together as a team, super quick. That will be the biggest challenge for me. I think Paul Seiler, kind of the head of USA Baseball, has a great line. He said, it's not an exhibition, it's a competition. Yep. I think we went in, like you said, I played in 2009 with Chipper and Brian McCann. We went in and it was kind of new. I think it was the second or third time they had done it. And we went in and kind of like, whoa, we didn't realize we were walking into divisional playoff games 3 weeks into spring training.
Yeah.
So I think it was a wake-up call. I think it has since changed and grown a lot bigger, where these guys are prepared to come in a little bit different shape. Maybe the pitchers weren't as ready back in 2009 as maybe these guys come in a little bit hotter, ready to go. So I think that's the biggest thing for me. Try and create a clubhouse and a room that they feel completely comfortable in right out of the gate, because it's going to be awkward for a lot of these guys, right? For them to walk in out of 3 weeks out of spring training and be amongst some of the games great. So how do they get comfortable, and how is it a seamless transition to getting them to buy in the team and competing like right out of the chute?
Yeah.
Obviously helps surrounding yourself with some big name coaches. You got Ken Griffey Jr., Andy Pettit, Jerry Manuel as your bench coach. The professional coaching debuts also for Griffey and Pettit. How exciting is it for you to kind of share that new experience with them?
Well, Griffey's like a unicorn, right? I mean, there's certain guys you played against that you're still a fan of. And him and Barry Bonds, obviously, was like, whoa, kind of take back moments playing against those guys. So getting a chance to talk to him over Zoom has been really cool. I mean, I expect him to be exactly the coolest guy in the room, right? A chance for these great young superstars to come and pick the brains of one of the greatest players to ever do it. So that for me is huge. Andy, I've spoken to him quite a few times. He's super excited for the opportunity. I'm super excited for the opportunity. We're both going into this. So the three of us are kind of going into this just going to grind it out. I have no other aspirations except I wanted to, when this was offered, I wanted to go in, I wanted to win the interview, I wanted to prove I could get this done, and I want to create an environment where these guys leave going, that was an unbelievable experience representing my country. Nothing more. It'll always be about the players, and I feel like the coaching staff is kind of lockstep with that. I don't think we're using this as like, how does this advance me in the future? I'm not thinking that way.
Yeah, it's certainly a special opportunity because it's such a unique tournament or just a unique competition, as you said, between all these different countries, all these different players that may be super familiar with one another, but they get to know each other in a totally different way here. And for you, you talked about having the opportunity to pick the brain of a Ken Griffey Jr. or an Andy Pettit for some of these players, but you got to play under the likes of Bobby Cox, Tony La Russa, Bruce Bochy, Buck Showalter, the list goes on, some of the all-time great skippers. What do you take from those experiences throughout your playing career as you put on your manager's cap for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, I take a little bit from each of them, and I take what I like. I mean, what I like is brutal honesty, but backed up in fact, right? Bobby Cox was the best at telling you the worst things about what he thought about you and your playing ability, but you left that meeting wanting to still run through a wall for the guy. Like, and those meetings changed. You have the ability to change it. I don't think in 3 weeks with the WBC, I'm going to have to deal with any of that as far as, these guys know coming in who's starting and, like I actually have the list in front of me. Goldie and Alonso, they'll switch on and off until we figure out in Miami, or hopefully when we do get to Miami and get into to real tough games. You got to go with the hot hand. I think everybody is on board with that. So just super excited for the opportunity, kind of trying to piece together a pitching staff. That's been kind of a little bit difficult because, I mean, would you love Max Fried? Now you got to get the Braves to sign off on it. So, they're not the guys we want to take the bump don't necessarily get the chance to take the bump, and then you kind of got to work your way through that. So we're figuring out the pitching side of it. But from a position player standpoint, God, and from a total team standpoint, when this is all said and done, we'll have as good a chance as anybody.
So you mentioned Max Fried. There's no Braves yet on that 17 players that have been announced. If you could add one or two, I mean, maybe Fried's one of them, but give us a couple Braves that would end up potentially making that cut.
I mean, I've always grown up on the simple fact that good pitching beats good hitting any day of the week. I watched it when I played for the Braves every night and kind of followed it my entire career. So I would definitely lean towards taking Max. I would lean towards grabbing Spencer. I would take them all if I could, the Minters of the world, but I think the Braves will be reluctant to let a lot of those pitchers go. So maybe a position player or two.
Yeah, one thing about the WBC, and as you brought it up and we talk about it here, is the pitcher usage. And from a managerial standpoint, I mean, there will be some club input, some player input.
No doubt.
Everybody's going to want to compete, but how challenging do you think it's going to be to handle workloads and all of those things as you walk into a heavy competition, as you mentioned earlier, right in the middle of what should be some grapefruit or cactus league games?
Yeah, I think for me, all I can do is my best to return every player to their parent club completely healthy. That would be the ultimate goal. I mean, to win the thing and everybody go back. If somebody's on a 50 pitch limit, then that's what they will throw. I will not deviate from that. I'm not too proud to try and win this thing and jeopardize somebody's health or somebody's season. So that will not take place.
You mentioned no agenda, but I know you seem to be thoroughly enjoying yourself on MLB Network. But is there a desire to ultimately be on a major league bench?
I mean, I think God, it's a tough question. It really is a tough question. I think everything's case by case scenario. I think what's held me back from really like jumping in is the fact that you have to be all in. My playing career was, I mean, you can ask my wife and kids. It's like, even though you're home, you're thinking about what you're going to do at 7:00 that night. So I have nothing but unbelievable respect for the guys that go about it. I'm just at a place right now that with my kids and their ages and wanting to be home and be around and be a part, it's not something, unless somebody blows my hair back, that I'm, jumping out of my couch to go do. This was just an unbelievable opportunity that I felt I couldn't pass up. So when I went in, I fought hard for this one.
Well, Mark, we're wishing you nothing but the best. You can also find him with Lauren Shahadi and Robert Flores on MLB Central on MLB Network. Best of luck in the World Baseball Classic, Mark. We appreciate the time.